Hello and welcome to part 2 of the commentary for High Performance Imports V5. This is at Sendai Highland once again, back when it still existed. Only this time it's a JDDA meeting, which was what you might call the pro class of drag racing in Japan. So all of the cars here are dedicated drag cars that, for the most part, aren't street registered, and the majority of cars are running on slick tyres.
Unlike the popular HKS Street Drag series, the JDDA meetings attract a lot of cars that are built specifically for drag racing. Though some still have number plates, most are never driven on the street. The Sendai Highland track is the only dedicated drag strip in Japan. Unfortunately, as it is in the middle of the mountains, it gets snowed under for a large part of the year.
Also, as I mentioned in a previous video, the drag strip is no longer there. There was also quite a large racing circuit that's disappeared as well. Everything's been covered in solar panels. There was even a golf course there, and they had some ski lifts. But everything has been replaced now by solar panels.
This Z32 is fairly unusual, as instead of the more common twin-turbo V6, it is naturally aspirated, with 6 throttles and a healthy dose of nitrous oxide. We're told it has run in the high 10s.
Yeah, I didn't find out whether or not they were actually running nitrous that day, but it was certainly in the car.
The NA class is dominated by Nissan Z cars, particularly early models with the L series 6-cylinder. This 280Z uses a full tube frame chassis and weighs just 850 kilograms.
Yeah, I got that stat from a Japanese magazine, car magazine at the time. Might have been Carboy, I think. There's a lot of nostalgia then and now for the old 240s, 280Zs, and anything with an L series 6-cylinder. For a very long time in Japan, they were sort of the dominant engine in car tuning, and even now, there's a lot of people have a soft spot for an old L series. Pretty decent for a non-turbo L28. We didn't get that shape of 280Z in Australia, actually. That's the 2-seater version, which was sold in Japan and in America. For some reason, we only got the 2+2.
The fastest NA car was this 260Z, which was still using carburetors instead of fuel injection.
Probably mention that Jun Auto sales has nothing to do with the Jun that you may be more familiar with from option videos.
Once again, it has the help of a blue bottle next to the driver's seat.
love to know what kind of a product Deep Kiss was. Hell of an interesting sponsor.
In the
Pretty good mile per hour for a naturally aspirated L series.
turbo class, we spotted the C&Y Sports AE85 again. Since our last video, they have fitted a T88H34D turbo, increasing power to over 900 horsepower.
If you didn't see it, there was a feature on the C&Y Sports workshop in one of the HPI V4 videos. You'll find it in the playlist.
San sure does like long burnouts. They're still chasing a 9 on street tyres.
You could see him struggling against the lack of power steering.
This 180SX was a surprise, using the smaller CA18 engine rather than the later SR20. It is also running drag slicks.
The quickest CA that I'm aware of. There were a few workshops that persisted with the older CA18 motor, as I did with my S13 drift car back in the day. But personally, I was very happy once I changed it to a 1JZ.
The Blitz RX-7 uses slicks too, but the body and suspension are still close to standard. The original 13B engine uses the latest K6 900R turbo with titanium intercooler plumbing. The custom inlet manifold has an 85mm infinity throttle body.
Those infinity throttle bodies were used on just about everything back then. If you weren't going to go to a 100mm one from someone like Valside, then they were pretty much the go-to, especially as they were readily available in Japan. It's an impressive looking car, and it sounded cool, but frankly, compared to what a lot of rotaries were doing in other parts of the world at that time, it wasn't all that fast.
Harry Kojima's 260Z is a famous machine in Japan. The chassis was originally built in Australia, but has since been fitted with a Skyline GTR engine.
Now, I might be mixing up cars here, but I seem to remember that this car was originally black, and it had a twin turbo Hemi 265 in it. Hemi 6-cylinder, that is. But somehow or other, it found its way to Japan, uh, minus the engine, and they went ahead and put a OS Giken RB30 engine, RB26 head, and I think it was a pair of 3240s, so plenty of power, but it was not the easiest thing to drive, as you'll see. That is a relief valve, which I think was there because of the nitrous. When things go wrong with nitrous, it has a tendency to blow the inlet manifold to pieces. So it's good to have a large vent like that if the inlet manifold pressure suddenly spikes out of control, as it can do. Again, I don't know if they're actually running nitrous on the day, but there it is.
It's not often you see a number plate mounted to a set of wheelie bars. The HKS Supra is virtually in a class of its own at these events. It has nothing in common with a normal Supra, using a custom-built chassis, composite body, air-shifted transmission and a twin-turbo Toyota V8 engine.
The best thing about this car was how it looked, but for some reason it kind of disappeared not long after this. They were talking about running it in America, but I don't think they ever got the sort of times they were looking for. So it kind of got retired like a lot of other HKS project cars. Look up 0R if you want to know what I'm talking about.
The first pass was a bit slower than usual, but it soon showed its true colours. The best time to date is a 7.2. The GTRs in this class range from street cars like this Phoenix Power R34 to fully stripped cars running drag slicks.
Phoenix's Power always had the most unique uniform. Don't know if I call it stylish, but it was very recognisable. This car was actually a customer car, which I think did wind up running low nines eventually.
Not bad for the car's first outing. This R32 from Escort has had much more development. Interestingly, it uses 3037S turbos, which seem to be getting popular again.
Escort was a tuning shop, I think just literally down the road from the Sendai drag strip. So naturally enough, they specialised in drag cars. and there were always quite a few of them at any given meet. I think that Z32 we showed earlier was actually an escort car too.
We showed you the Tomei R34 in our very first video, but we hadn't seen it run until now. The engine hasn't been changed yet, as they are still working on the transmission and suspension setup. Slick tyres sometimes cause as many problems as they solve.
Yeah, what we were referring to there is the amount of trouble they had launching the car. Another big problem they had at this particular meet was getting the thing into reverse after they'd done a test launch. The colour and the red and blue arrows on the car are actually a reference to one of Tomei's first ever project cars, which was a Datsun Sunny or a Datsun 1200, depending what part of the world you're from. And back then it had a really highly tuned Nissan A series. Love the look of this car. If it had normal wheels on it, you'd barely know it was a drag car. It's also in what we used to call hard to get grey, because probably half of all R32 GTRs were this colour.
This R32 by OMR is competing in the same class as the Tomei car. Like Escort, they are using smaller 3037S turbos rather than the 3240s for a broader power band. The slicks are mounted on 15-inch wheels, so the brakes are actually smaller than standard. The fastest GTR at this meet was the Advance R32. It uses the wildest inlet manifold design we've seen yet. Advance claim they have also gained torque by changing to Truss TD06SH 25G turbos.
Yeah, quite a mouthful, that. As far as I know, they're virtually identical to a T67, but they just changed the nomenclature to go along with all of the other Truss turbos.
At the end of the event, the teams all celebrate with a Japanese-style barbecue and a quick game of Hello Kitty Bingo.
That's Kawasaki Tetsuya with the bullhorn there. He's the pro driver who drove the Vale sidecar on that day, and used to drive the HKS cars too. I think yeah, he was quite a character, and I think he volunteered to run the bingo competition at the end of the day there. That was a really fun thing actually. It was quite late at night, but a lot of people stayed back to have a barbecue and drink a fair bit and play Hello Kitty Bingo of all things.
It's great to watch the heavyweights of the Japanese tuning industry get so excited about a game of bingo.
Okay, that's it for part 2 of High Performance Imports V5. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, and I'll be back with part 3 soon.